Hey, this is Rob Anspach, and welcome back to another edition of eHeroes. This is episode 225, and I'm bringing on an ex-con, an ex-contractor. I know I always shorten those things, and it's very confusing. But I have Travis Rohrer on, and we're going to talk about house flipping. We're going to talk about renovations. We're going to talk about, heck, we're going to probably talk about horror stories. Who knows? But there's a lot of stuff to learn in house flipping that maybe the average entrepreneur doesn't know, but can translate that to their business as well. So welcome here, Travis. And this is a great episode because 5 years ago when I set out to do this eHeroes, I had no idea I would actually get to 225. So here we are.
Well, thanks, Rob. I mean, episode 225. I don't know if that's an indication of weight or I don't know. And yes, I am an ex-contractor.
Ex-contractor.
That is kind of funny. It's kind of like I went through my rehab. I've been there, done that. So.
Yeah. Now you rehab homes.
Yep. We could just giggle for a half hour.
So. Yeah, I think that's fine too. But yeah, I actually. For all the listeners, I was actually visiting Travis a couple weeks ago in Charleston, South Carolina, and we came across on this walking tour. We came across this mansion, and it was devastated by several hurricanes over the years, and there was cracked foundations, cracked walls, and when Travis told me the price of this house, I almost fainted because it was $5.5 million just to sell it, and another $7 million to restore it. I'm thinking.
Well, actually, Rob, sorry, correction. When our friends were here the following week for you, we went on the same walking tour, walked by the same house. The guy bought it for $5.5 million. He couldn't do the addition he wanted to on there for historical reasons. It's now for sale for $6.5 million. And you'd probably have to put double that into it to make it habitable. But hey, location.
Yeah, and that's what it is. And I have a lot of friends who have moved from West Coast to East Coast because they can maximize their dollars on the West Coast and buy triple the size of the house on the East Coast. But you travel a lot. You travel all over the place, and the markets, the location, and not every flip is going to make you money. But if you follow the things that you're going to teach, there's ways to make sure that you're not going to lose an arm and a leg and or your bank account.
Well, truly, and it's interesting. As I was communicating with a guy this morning, and he's talking about. He asked for my guide. I have a renovation cheat sheet. Like if it's this many square feet and you're going to do a light, average, or a heavy renovation, you should, roughly put this much money into it. And of course, that's going to depend on what market you're in, price point, labor rates, all that stuff. This is just a quick, generalized guide. Cross the 2 points. This is how much money you're going to spend. He's like, that is exactly what I had budgeted. And he goes, it's not working. And his email went on to say the nightmare of getting people to show up. And he specifically spoke to, he thought it would be fine to do it time and materials. I'm just like, and there's certainly ways. I mean, we can go over contract types. We can go over everything, but we're here to talk about flipping. So first thing, there's three parts: find the property, improve the property, sell the property. That's it. It's that complicated. And I see tons and tons of help out there and lots of advice, people talking about, we can help you find the properties. We can help you sell the properties. Improving the properties is where your money is made or lost. I don't care if I'm doing a renovation for you, Rob, or a custom house I'd be building for whoever, or even a renovation on my own property. It's if I don't set up the job, with a plan, then there is no plan. If I go into it willy-nilly, guess what? It's going to be nothing but a litany of change orders. And I would like to dispel that myth right out the gate. I'm telling you, contractors don't like change orders. There are some that have a reputation for change ordering to death, and that would be only because there's not a clear plan of expectations going in, whether it's scope, schedule, or specifications. Those are the three massive things that have to be dealt with up front. And I don't care if it's my kitchen or bath course or my flipper course. The first phase of any project is my pre-construction phase. And even my own projects, the only thing I will say, I don't shortchange it, but I do. The only step that I ever missed in my own preaching of pre-construction phase is a pre-construction meeting. And I'll just say that's my caveat. I think if you're new, you must hold it. Myself, where I've had a seasoned team and I've done this 100 times, or more, whatever the number is, that my team is consistent, so we all know how to communicate what things overlap and what things are going to be likely missed. And so if you're new to that game, that meeting is imperative on finding out what's missing in your thought process and really being vulnerable enough to ask the questions of, what have I missed? You're relying on industry professionals, a team that you vetted, to say, hey, well, I would think about this. I've run into this before, X, Y, Z. And whether it's just an item in a contingency schedule or a contingency budget item, that will at least make you aware that, hey, there could be a problem over here.
Yeah.
So I allude to my pre-construction phase, and really it has to do with a site assessment. From the moment you identify a property, I provide a checklist. It's, I don't even know how many pages, 20, 30 pages of, here's all the boxes you're going to check of what you're looking at. And hey, there's going to be a lot of things on there that are in good condition, great condition. You might be doing anything of that. From that, you're going to identify what you need to purchase. Okay, fine. Now I got a product checklist. Here's all the stuff that you could possibly want. Fill in this. Now from that, you're going to understand, well, who do I need to do this? Now, whether you're a homeowner and want to go crazy with a BFH, as I call it, the big freaking hammer, and think it's demo day on HGTV, knock yourself out. I've done it, and it's kind of funny, and kind of fun to knock holes and stuff. But I will also say that causes you excess grief down the road. And why in the world, if something is put in with care and consideration, wouldn't you likewise respect that and take it out with some level of care and consideration? So I don't like picking up bigger messes than I need to. So There you go. And then, so now you'll know who your team is. Now you need to really take the time to vet your team. And when it comes to that, and I lean on referrals. If I'm new to a town, I lean on referrals, and I have a system of how I would build a team, which would be really abnormal, I've been told, but and I'll address that in a minute. I mean, it's kind of strange. It's like, I'll tell you where I start, and it's like, what? Because I've been told that before. But once you have your team established and you're getting referrals, I do not care if the referral came from your preacher, your grandparents, or your mom. Don't care. You vet them, because that doesn't mean your personality is going to jive. And if you get that funny feeling, whether it's communication, whether it's just, something's not off in the way they're even looking at my building, right now, cut them. Forget it. Off your list. Maybe a backup plan, but the team's got to work for you, not your mom. And that's, because at the end of the day, this is not emotional. This is about making money and protecting your assets.
No, I like the fact that you say communicate, because I believe that, and maybe you can correct me, but there's probably a lot of people who have spent way too much time in front of HDTV and think, okay, this is how it's going to work. But in reality, the contractor knows it's not going to work.
Yeah, well, and I've had that conversation with people. It's like, well, I've seen this. It's like, well, forget that. You're looking at an half hour, an hour episode of something that takes a while. So then, out of your schedule and out of your interviews, now you're going to get an idea of how long it takes people. What, give me a budget, because now you've got your product list. You're not saying, hey, I want this plumbed. I want this plumbed with these things, and that way now whether you're getting just a labor, a trim out, and a rough in bid from these people, and always get a firm number. It's important that you do that. So now you've built your preliminary schedule, you built your preliminary budget, kind of what kind of time frame they're on, who can work with who. When our framework kind of follows, here's how the sequence goes. Now you're going to hold your pre-construction meeting. From here, you gather all the players up, and pick your poison. However many team members are going to be there. You get the person that's going to be on site that's leading the job. Make sure you know who that is, because Rob, I could be talking to you about, hey, I'm gonna do something for you, but I bet any amount of money that I'm going to end up talking to your spouse when it comes to the actual work, right? So it's like, you and I could have great rapport. Next thing you know, wait a minute, and I don't have any problem with that pivot. But if you're dealing with, say, a plumbing salesperson, and next thing you know, well, my lead is Jimmy over here, and Jimmy likes to show up at 9 versus 8. You get all those protocols established.
Yeah.
And then to circle back from at the end of that meeting, you will have any things that they might have seen or overcome. We were talking about in the pre-construction meeting. Make your final adjustments to your schedule. tweaks to budget, set a kickoff date. You know your product lead time. I didn't get into that, but you must know your product lead time. The guy down the street had his kitchen tore out, and it was out for 6 weeks. Why? Well, the cabinets weren't here. Then my question goes back to the why did they tear it out?
Mm-hmm.
The inconvenience of that. It's, be mindful of the next step and when that's going to happen. Anyway, and then following the pre-construction phase, now you've kicked off. Now, whether it's your dream vision of HGTV or not, your job literally at that point is to be a servant to your schedule, your budget.
Mm-hmm.
And that requires communication. If somebody has a hiccup, adjustments will be made, and say my plumber's delayed by 2 days. Well, fine. Who are you telling? Everybody downstream.
Mm-hmm.
And before I start a project, I literally have a start and a closeout date with, these are the dates that I have in mind, and it's communication. And that's really, it's not that hard. It's just not that hard. Anyway, that's my flow.
Yeah.
So that's the pre-construction phase. It's that phase is so critical that I see so many people shortchange it. And you can say, well, I did that. Well, clearly you did, and you tore out the kitchen and you didn't know when your product lead time was to set the schedule. Or, well, this didn't happen. Well, then clearly you didn't do this to do that, and you didn't communicate. Everything goes back to that one meeting. Sorry about that. Let me turn this off.
And for all those that are listening, I want you to pay attention, because everything that Travis just said, whether you're in construction or not, can be implemented into your business. Just those simple
Mm-hmm.
systems, as simple, just having a pre-qualifying meeting, or a construction meeting, if you want to call it that. It simplifies a lot of the issues that you have bringing on new clients, bringing on vendors, bringing on contractors, whatever. And for me, in this house, when we went to remodel a few rooms, I got the impression very shortly after the first contractor, I better just double my budget, because they were way off. And that's what happened. It's just everything that could go wrong in my bathroom remodel did, and it was double the price.
Wow. Well, and I remember how I ended up really becoming aware that my system traveled, if
Mm-hmm.
you will, as I ended up working in the hospitality industry. I would run around travel resorts. And so I would have to show up at a new town where nobody knew me and build a team. So it wasn't like, my hometown where it's like, oh, I'm doing this, and just blindly, here's my list.
Mm-hmm.
And not that you don't, vet your people from time to time, because you do exchange out subs. If maybe they're not performing, maybe they have new hires, or maybe their lead guy that you like working with left, or whatever the reason. It's really easy in your hometown to, this is my lumber place, this is my flooring place, just pull the string on a Chattahoochee doll, and this is what I do. It's wash, rinse, repeat, right? When you're in a new town, I have no credibility. I have no name. I have nothing, so literally, you want to know my golden rule where I start? Outside salesman at the paint store.
Wow.
Yeah, because that guy's on the ground.
Because they talk a lot.
He's on the ground, and he knows all the contractors. So he knows the finished side of it, which is critical for timing. So from the outside salesman at the paint store, I would be led to typically a painter and a drywaller, because they work well together.
Mm-hmm.
The drywaller would lead me to an electrician, which would lead me to a plumber. So I start kind of at that third tier and then work myself back.
Mm-hmm.
Lumber's lumber, right? But I would go to 2 or 3 lumber yards. Who's going to service? Who's going to do that? And supplies, I was ordering stuff in typically nationally, which that didn't affect me much. But it was, the product wasn't my issue during that phase. It was team, because we were working under immense pressure, mass scale, and who could deliver. So it was, and even on small renovation, I moved to Charleston and I needed to pour some concrete. Well, of course, that was a fiasco in itself. I don't pour concrete, but I can set everything up. So how do you think I found a concrete guy? It wasn't, I called the home builders, and those guys were all busy. Forget it. You can call your local trade association. Forget Angie's List. Sorry. Garbage site, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Just my opinion. So I called the concrete plant, asked for the dispatcher, and I said, give me your top 3 producers. And he's like, what? And I said, I'm an out-of-town contractor. I just moved here. I'm not contracting. I just need some stuff done on my house. I need the name of 3 dudes that are doing this. They gave me the name of 3. 2 of them called me back. One of them didn't even make it past the phone call. It's like, not that guy. the guy that showed up, he's like, I don't know how you found me, but that was because I don't work for homeowners. And I'm like, well, that's how I found you. He's like, cool. And I said, this is what I need done. And he's like, I like what you have set up. And we set a deal. So there's always a way to find somebody.
Yeah.
But
And you
different.
mentioned,
It's different than people would think.
you mentioned the word calling back, and in the service trade industry, calling back it seems to be a problem. Whether they answer their
It's a
phone
lost.
or
It's
call
a lost
back.
art.
No,
Well, it's a lost art.
You're like, hey, I know that they don't even pick up the phone, and then weeks go by. Hey, I'm calling back, dude. I wanted you a long time. They don't care.
Well, I currently serve on the membership committee for the Home Builder Association here. You know, I like giving back and and doing that sort of thing. And I do believe in trade associations. So I'm still a part of a trade by proxy, even though I'm an ex-con, but that's okay. And so I get my monthly, here, call 6-8 dudes, make sure they're showing up at the meeting or whatever. And literally, I think this is my third month. So I've had about 20 calls I've had to make. I've spoken to one live person.
Yeah.
Leave a message, call me back, no callbacks, nothing. One. It's crazy.
Yeah. And lately I've been getting a string of calls through WhatsApp or Facebook, and I'm like, why don't you just use the phone? These things are expensive. Use them. Nope.
Yeah, right.
Nope.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that's my front end part of how I do the flips. There's a lot more involved in flips. You have to, I'm sure I don't know. What do you know about flips before I go crazy?
What do I know about flips? I know that I probably should never do them.
Okay. Well, it's not gymnastics.
I don't know enough.
Well, so then of course there's resources, and there's two monsters in the field out there, and they have really good education on YouTube. Actually, I'll give credit to Jerry Norton and Ryan Pineda, and I do watch their stuff, and it's really interesting as they have a lot of good value packed information for those, again, on step 1 and 3. And so I'm playing in that middle part of just trying to project management, organization, understand your systems, and just follow through.
Yeah, because if we go back to
really where the money.
We go back to the start of the conversation here. My wife knows more about carpentry than I do. So it's
yeah. Well, how many homeowners think they can actually demo?
Yeah.
It's like, really? You might be able to tear something out.
Yeah, and get electrocuted in the process, or bust a pipe and get soaked.
Right. Well, it's about.
Technical difficulties. Your volume went out. Don't know what's happening. We can edit this out. I don't know what you're saying. Your battery's probably died. We'll just sign language the whole thing out.
Mute my
there you go.
There we go. Okay, fine. It's like all of a sudden it says mute's on. I haven't touched anything. I forget what I was talking about, Rob. Sorry about that.
And for those just joining,
what were we talking about?
just joining, we had technical difficulties.
Yeah,
it happens almost every single episode.
Crazy things.
I just roll with it.
Yeah. So and anyway, the genesis of it came as I've seen too many people struggle with projects running on and on, no coordination, no communication with their subs, and just it really comes down to setting just clear expectations. Yeah. And the sad truth is I could put out books, I could put out lessons, I could put out everything. It's not gonna protect us from the impending future of the trades.
Well,
very proud.
When you're, I think the biggest question I have, and maybe there's a lot of other people out there that feel the same, is that buying a home, flipping it, it's not only scary, but you're looking at the monetary resources that you have. And it's like, well, shit, I'm going to go way over budget if I don't pick the cheapest guy, if I don't do this, if I don't do that. And then in their mind, they want to go all HGTV on the property and make it glorious, which doesn't increase the value sometimes. To me, I think that would just drive me nuts. It's like, just put the minimum stuff in there so I can make some money.
Well, inherently, it depends. Of course, everything comes with a risk, whether it's the stock market, whether it's investing in FTX, whether it's wait a minute, did I say that? Or even a flip. And you got to know your numbers going in. Do a quick property assessment, understand that, and you have to research your market. So I do flipping myself. Fortunately, I'm a master carpenter, so I can do my own demo, trim, framing, all the cabinetry, all that stuff. So my labor cost is variable depending on
Yeah, but you still have to account for that because
I do account for it.
Yeah,
I do account for it. What I'm saying is, so you need to do your research on like, okay, what is your post flip value going to be, your ARV, your after renovation value. So what does that get on Redfin, drop a pin on your location, what's your comps in the last. You typically like to go 3 months, 6 months, no more than 9 months to a year. What's the selling value? Equate that dollar down to a cost per square foot, because it might be a house that's 500 square foot bigger, maybe it has a half bath less. Just the variables are going to be, you're going to try to get a really good comparable to your property and come up with a solid comp that's likely what your sell price is going to be. Today we have the never know what the Fed is going to do with the next interest rate. Is it going up or down? Because the other thing that happens is when you have a renovation that goes longer than expected, your carry costs go way high. Where interest rates. I got a buddy that's in my it's in my group, and he's still using hard money lending, and I can't get him out of that mindset. He just showed me his last closing docs. He spent $24,000 in fees just to get his money, and he's paying $2,200 a month in interest. His last project went 3 months over his anticipated budget. This is before he talked with me. So he's 30 grand out of pocket, out of profit. He still made money, so he's happy. But I'm like, dude, do you understand? That's 30 grand that should not have been spent. You could have had a line of credit, collapse that a lot. And I'm not telling him how to do his own finances, but seriously, you can't be wasting money like that. So this is about also collapsing time and reducing your exposure. Because every time an interest rate bump hikes, as you know, your market of who you can sell to shrinks quite a bit, because people are going to buy max value where they can. So depending on if you're in that, pick a price point. It doesn't matter, because it's going to be relative to markets. His price point's about that $250,000 price range, but he's someone by definition to a lower threshold of buyer. Well, a quarter point rate hike is a big squeeze for him, and so his target market becomes even more of a needle in the haystack. So that becomes problematic. And then, of course, so when you know what the after renovation value is, when you have an idea of what you're going to put into the budget by doing your pre-property condition audit, then you'll know what your max allowable offer is on that property, because you can dissect out, this is my investments, this is my anticipated margin, this is all I can buy that property for, and reasonably maintain my margins. Because I'm sorry, I don't care what planet you're from, profit is not a 4-letter word, ever.
And we all need profit. That's the
yes,
name
we
of the
do.
game.
Yeah.
But I was actually on your website, and I was looking at, and I think the biggest thing on just about every entrepreneur, whether you're flipping homes or selling widgets, is scope creep. And I would think that it's probably even bigger in house flipping than everywhere else.
Well, I do say that we don't have X-ray vision. Even I'm saying that from. No, I mean I don't. I can go into a house and be like, well, what I can tell you is I've been here before. This is something that could come up, but I can't guarantee it. And I mean, unless you want to go crazy and now start doing exploratory bids where I'm going to cut a little hole and speculate what it might be. Once you get a good team around you and get a good sense that, one, they're competent and understand what you're trying to do, that will help you a lot. Really, you've got to have a trusted team that you can rely on. That's going to fit your schedule. that you have an understanding of their budget. I mean, that doesn't mean, like you said, the low bid guy.
Right.
I mean, so there's a couple kind of contractors out there, and for flipping, I'll use the low bid guy and the medium bid guy as I'm talking contextually. So to me, the low bid guy is chucking a truck.
Mm-hmm.
He's just solopreneur out there, got his mailbox sticker logo on his side of his door, and he's just, he's a qualified handy person that's trying to do something good, and it's easy for him to get overstretched, beyond his reach as far as capability, because he's just a one guy show, and those things that might up front seem like a low end offer, but on the back end, it's like now you're having to compensate. Things go drag on, and once you start adding carry costs to a guy whose number was good in the beginning, I should have hired the middle guy with a crew that's competent, that was a little higher price, but it's like, I'm going to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a balance, and I see people making more of a decision basically out of emotion and fear. Then I'm going to hire this guy because his price was 10% different. Then I'm going to hire the guy that's right for the job, that's actually going to reduce my cost by 10% by collapsing time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a balancing act that it's hard to understand unless you've experienced the pain. Because listening to me and saying I'd hire the more expensive guy, well, it's easy for me to say because I'm not writing the check.
Right.
But I'm also saying I've also written the check, and I've also written the interest checks. I'm telling you, that's a better deal. But I can lead a horse to water. I can't make him drink.
So you try to use the same teams when you go back into different markets?
Well, different markets are different teams, of course, because I keep in mind,
Well,
I worked in 10 different.
Right. Say you're in Charleston, you got this great team, but you're going back to San Diego. You've been to San Diego before. Are you going to try to bring that same team back, or you go through the process all over again?
It's a different process. When I worked in San Diego, I did 3 different properties down there, and I used the same flooring and paint company. I altered on wall tile, and I altered on drywall. Just those are tough trades, and they need to be very responsive. I will say my high-end wallpaper dude, I wished I could remember his name. I'd give him a shout out. That guy was amazing. I mean, high quality, that guy was a gem.
Yeah,
So it was,
and most in your local market, you understand the contractors, you understand the market, and people get used to those contractors. You're all over the place. I mean, you go all over the United States, and to me that would be very mind numbing, because now I'm trying to learn a new market, a new contractors, new this, new that, how everything is being done. And those listening were probably going, yeah, I can't even fathom that either. But here you are, not only using your own system, but teaching other people how to, also, think like you.
well, I'm living proof that it works.
Yeah.
And my last travel job was back to the hometown that I moved out of, that I worked in for a lot of years, right? So as soon as I knew we were doing that project, and the only reason I took it, honestly, it was for friends. It was my 3rd renovation in the building. It was a condo building. It was my town that I lived in for 18 years. And it was during a time when we had a grandbaby coming. The other daughter was, having a celebratory thing. So we got to go back and basically have my client pay for a rental house for me, honestly. And I worked with my own team. So when I knew about the project, we set a kickoff date that coincided with birth of baby. And so we worked it to our advantage. But again, I built a start date and a finish date based on the fact that I know how long stuff takes. And I missed, even with we had 4 days of snow time where we couldn't get around the town, and I missed my project completion date by 2 days.
Wow.
So it's not bad. I mean, and that's not to say anything about that, but it just works. It worked. It was easy for me. I really didn't have any pain in my front end work, because that pre-construction phase, it's effort to research and to pick and to choose and to price and to lead time and to facilitate. But what was really interesting is my homeowner was friends with this competing fireplace shop, and he wanted me to get a price from him. And anyway, couldn't get a price. And he's like, I don't understand how you got product and installation and schedule. I was like, dude, the installation was scheduled before I left Charleston. And that was mind blowing to him that I could forecast far enough in advance. And then that had nothing to do with me. It just had to do with my system, right? I mean,
Mhm.
literally, it was I just followed my steps and filled in the blanks, and here's the date, and say, hey, reserve me a slot here, and they knew me enough to trust that those dates worked,
Mhm.
and it worked. So it's a tried and true system, and it works. And
Yeah.
I know I save people time and money.
Let's talk about your system. And you know, you've been a contractor for probably before dirt was invented. I mean, I granted we're the same age, and we've been around the block one or two times. And but you know, why did you develop a system? I mean, why is this course important to other contractors? And I mean, sure.
Honestly, the genesis of this was because I got sick of it was friends and family. Truthfully, it was friends and family. I got sick of they would hear how my projects were going, and I really just I just kind of chugged along in my career. I
Mhm.
actually didn't really know I had like a system. It just kind of manifested itself because I'm a OCD weirdo that communicates, and military got me that. My grandfather was everything in decency and order, so it's just kind of you chug along in this routine. Anyway, I would have friends and family talk about these renovation projects, and I would begin to ask myself the questions is like, why is this project taking so long for whatever reasons? I get the feedback and put that in, and then you'd see projects sit for months at a time, and it for the life of me it doesn't even make sense. I mean, even as a contractor, I mean, at one time when I had this ridiculous crew, I think I had 10 custom homes going at once. Never again. It was crazy. I mean, because you're just inefficient at everything, and that was
Right.
the and actually, it was stressful, and it was disappointing because I wasn't delivering to the standard that I wanted to deliver. So when you see projects that drag on like that, and all you're doing is costing the people money. I mean, they get bank loans, they're paying construction interest, and by the time you're at the third, quadrant of the house, they're paying max interest on stuff. I mean, it's
Right.
not like, oh, they've paid for a hole in a foundation. No, now they're paying for three-fourths of the building, and that last point takes as much time as the first. I mean, it's expensive for them,
Mhm.
and to me, it's irresponsible for big open project times. Whether you're doing a flip for yourself or you're having a house built by a contractor, it is it's just irresponsible to have long open and too risky to have
Mhm.
project open times. So the genesis was I started to come up with this idea, and then it manifested into let me start writing an outline. It started with I was going to write a book, and then I wrote a course, and
Yeah, who writes
and
books
now I'm
anymore?
well, I know a guy that writes a couple, but um, and they're quite humorous. But so now I'm actually taking the advice of said guy, that would be you, and I'm actually taking my words and I'm putting them into a book format because, as it turns out, it gives your course more credibility,
Right.
which it's based on the course. So I'm basically taking a long form and spitting it out that way. So that was the genesis of it because I'm seriously I got sick of seeing projects sit and people's money, including friends,
Right.
lose money due to bad project management because
Yeah.
it's honestly it's just not that hard.
No. You know, I'm on your website, and for all those that are out there, you know, go to it. You know, go and get Travis's system, because whether or not you believe that, you know, real estate or house flipping is something that you want to do, it's probably something that you should do at least once. Try it. With a system, you're probably going to make some money. And
Mhm.
you know, I'm really excited to, you know, explore everything that Travis has, because he's a wealth of knowledge. And even after spending a couple days with him in Charleston, it's like, you know, he knows his stuff. And you know, if he's traveling all over the world, not the world, but the United States, flipping homes, I think you guys can do it in your local area.
Yeah, it's fun. It's good. It's a good time.
Yeah, take it from an
I,
ex.
and it's funny because I haven't physically built, I guess it's been pushing a year now, which is good because I'm old now, as you alluded to, and I need time to heal up because I actually still like physically building. But at the end of the day, there is some joy and satisfaction out of my craft, and I
Right.
and I really I find carpentry to be quite romantic, actually, regardless if it's simple trim work in a flip house or because to see somebody's eyes light up and be like, oh my
Mhm.
God, this is mine.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. It's really
Yeah.
satisfying to me.
You know, and well, you know, walking into your home, I could tell some of the additions that you did and the pride that you have in your work and all that just enhances the quality of the house and makes it valued more. So, if you're looking at a home right now that you're thinking of buying, and it's 225,000, it's going to take another 50 or 100,000 to put in, but it's going to sell for 700,000. To me, that's a no-brainer. Do it every day.
Right, all day.
Yeah. So but that kind of goes to another equation is that how do you know? Because West Coast prices are insane right now, and East
Oh,
Coast
they're
are
insane.
half the price. How do you know if you're doing a renovation in West Coast, it's actually going to make you money versus East Coast?
Again, that's doing your market research. I mean, each market has the same process. After renovation value, what's my renovation cost going to do? Like my cheat sheet would. I mean, I did some work, like I said, in California. Well, those prices were crazy compared to
Mhm.
Montana and Oregon.
Right.
You want to go crazy on prices? Hawaii, crazy. I mean, seriously, it's my cheat sheet is literally for your normal market
Mhm.
conditions. I mean, not going to be the either coast. It's going to be more centrally located, if you will. But again, it's general reference material, and it's called my renovation cheat sheet. I'll drop you a link to it. Um, you have to do some research on your own. I mean, you'll do your products, you'll do your subs, you'll get your general pricing, and you'll see what the SKU is. And once you have your SKU, it's like, oh, this cheat sheet's 15% off. Oh, it's 10% off. Based on that, it's just skew your numbers, enter the data, let it spit out, and it's a non-emotional decision. Does it work? Yes or no. It's the flow
Mhm.
chart.
Mhm.
No, exit the scenario. You could fall in love with it, and I think people get too emotional about it.
Right.
They'll go in and like, oh my god, I could do this property. No doubt it can be done. That
Mhm.
doesn't mean it should be done.
Right.
um, what was it? Tell an entrepreneur he can't do something for $5. He'll spend 10 to figure out how to do it in 5. Right, same thing with house flipping. Take the emotion out of it.
Right.
I mean, honestly, it's like, what's the after renovation value? What's my cost? What's my margin? Can I buy it for that? Does it work? Yes or no? It's that
Yeah.
simple. I don't care where you're at. That's how it works.
Well, if
Take the emotion.
someone came to my house and said, "Hey, here's $1 million," I'll be going, "Great." And you can have all the stuff in the house too with it because I'm out.
Yeah, including that stack of books.
And the kids too. Keep them.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you got to take the emotion, and I think everything we do as an entrepreneur, you got to look at it the same way. I mean,
You have to know your numbers.
right, and we're all looking for that profit at the end of the year or at the end of the
Mhm.
month or however you do your bills, and and I'm not saying that profit is a good thing or a bad thing. It's a tool, just like everything else. But if you want that money to be able to do something for you, you got to look at the numbers that get to that point, and
Mhm.
it's got to make sense. You
Yeah,
know,
and no, profit's never about. I don't care what business you're in. It does not matter what business you're in. You have to make money to be sustainable.
right? So, where do they go to get your course?
C3projectpros.com. And that you can go there. My links are there. I have two products. I have the kitchen and bath renovation course. That's for if you're just like a homeowner doing that, or my more robust one, which is the flipper course, which that that's property assessments, that's the math equations, global calculations. Both of them have the fun stuff in there about all the contracts, lien language, hidden costs, dispute resolutions. I mean, all the stuff that you need to know, I cover. And if there's something missing, drop me a line. I will cover it.
But and it's funny because probably the kitchen and baths are where most people spend too much money in their renovations.
And ironically, kitchen and baths are about 80% of all home renovations in the country.
Hmm.
Um, the payback is, not all what they think. I mean, they're nice because that's all lipstick on a pig, honestly.
Hmm.
You could put in a beautiful kitchen. My aunt works for a high end architect in Asheville, North Carolina. You've heard of Biltmore Estates?
Hmm.
This guy builds in the this guy's his architecture work is for the uber elites in the Biltmore Forest.
Wow.
And this house they designed, I did not see it,
but whatever. The build was like 5 million. Somebody came in and bought the house, gutted the kitchen, and put $1 million into a kitchen. So it's like,
Wow.
here you've got what you and I would consider probably ridiculous dream home. And it's like, oh my God, this is perfect. And it's like, so somebody with money is not going to like something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so don't take it personal if somebody doesn't like something. It's like, it's not about you. It's about what they're buying it.
No,
Homes are not emotional.
I remember when I used to have a cleaning service, and people would come in and they'll say, "Hey, Rob, just clean the carpet." I'm like, "Okay, great," and it looked like crap, but I knew that had they replaced the carpet, the incoming buyer is probably going to rip it out anyway because it's not their style, it's not their color, it's not, people are like, "Wow, just yeah." And I get into these places and they just spent $10,000 on Berber carpet or this or that, and a year later I go back in there, I get called and they're like, I'm like, all the carpets changed because the new homeowner didn't like any of it. So
I got a buddy, Dave, and he does the cool electronics in a home, security systems, theaters, anything that is automated in a home. He does that. Anyway, so Laura and I sold our house in Washington, and he went in there. He calls me back because he did some work for him. I just said, "Here's the guy you call to anything you want with the electronics here," because Dave did it. Calls me up, Dave, like, you wouldn't believe what they did. I'm like, what? He goes, the handrail and stuff you put in is gone. And I built this. I mean, it hurt me for about this much. Built a cool custom maple and glass and stainless, all integrated, real sexy contemporary rail. They didn't like it. They sheetrocked over it. So it was all see-through. And I'm like, he's like, what do you think about that? And I'm like, it bummed me out for a minute, but then it's like, I don't care, whatever, to each his own.
Yeah. And I think I'd be on, son of a bitch.
I did for a minute. And it's like, really? Like, it was surprising, but then again, it's like, what do you do? It's like, it's not personal. It's like, it's not their thing.
Yeah, and it's no longer, the person's home that hired you to do the work to begin with. So it's
right. So move on.
So, but the one thing is, you always take pictures of your work, and at least then you have a brag book that you can show people.
Yeah. Yes, I do. That's good stuff.
So everyone that was paying attention, go to c3projectpros.com. For those that are on YouTube watching this, I'll have the links below. For those that are on audio, it's the letter C, the number 3, projectpros.com. And
well, for those listening, sorry for the mute earlier. My headphones went out.
Yeah, I don't know. Should we edit that out or make them suffer through it?
That's your call, man. I had some good. Well, if it's audio, they can't see my crazy sign language going. I don't know.
Yeah, but we communicated we knew what we were doing. So yeah, and that's the name of the game. So whether or not you can hear us, we communicate pretty well. I mean, we're old time entrepreneurs. He's an ex-con. I'm an ex-carpet cleaner. Now into marketing and publishing. So hey, if we can do it, you can do it too, because it doesn't
just find what your passion is and do that.
Right. So we'll see you guys on the next episode, hopefully, and I want you to go get Travis's course, because I want you to make money. I want you to at least learn something new.
Yeah, I want them to make money too.
Yeah, and I want you to make money.
Thank you.
Adios. We'll see you guys on the next one.